16 months.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They grow too quick, right?
Super quick. I'm like, what? I was looking at
16
pictures
and
the
he
other
looks so
day.
big.
Yeah, he's already massive. But this is the latest one. We just did this.
Oh my gosh, he's adorable. Look at this kid.
It's really
I'm like trying to think who he looks like. He looks like he'll both.
Yeah.
He looks like in the eyes. Is it Christina?
I think, yeah, they say the cheeks and eyes, and then my eyebrows and more in my chin.
Yeah.
And then my
Oh,
hair.
he's really cute.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's like a little man,
Yeah, that's what
right?
it says. Like
Yeah, he looks like a little man. Yeah. Oh, there's Mark. Okay, we're good. Should I wait or go? Get started? Testing. We're good? Okay, good evening, everyone. We're about to get started with our meeting today. First, we're going to do roll call. I got myself, Jill Dominguez, here. We have Mark Horwitz joining via Zoom. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
I've got Sergio next to me.
I got no video feed, sorry.
You're good. We can see you, yeah.
But I don't see you guys.
You don't see us?
They're
Okay,
working
sorry.
on it.
They're working on it. Okay, I've got Zaraima's here and Tracy. We don't have in attendance Morad or Cesar, but Morad should be here in a few minutes. Okay, where's the agenda? Here we go. We do have a public comment. Here we go. We'd like to welcome Martin Cuevas for a public comment. You're welcome to step up to the podium. You can go up front. You're going to have to state your name and address before the beginning of your presentation. Remember that comments are limited to 3 minutes. And we'd love to hear from you. Welcome.
Okay. Hello, my name is Martin Cuevas. I live
Is it
at
on?
5830. Oh. Okay.
Yes, I can hear.
All right. Hello, my name is Martin Cuevas. I am born and raised here. I live in 5837 Lourdes Boulevard. I want to start off by thanking the board for helping fund the Frontera Leadership Institute, the program that I joined to help become an entrepreneur. The cutting edge of the cutting edge is starting to come here to Brownsville. It's been coming here for a while now, and being a part of this world now, I see it. And so because of that, I have to do the best I can to keep ahead, to make sure that my peers are also kept ahead. This board, this coalition has done so much to help me and help those in my community, and I want to congratulate and thank all of you. So thank you so much. I want to continue this by saying that we need to keep this sort of momentum going, and I want to make myself as very as needed to the board as possible to help push this forward. Every time a rocket launches now, a lot of people within the community see it as like fireworks, or they see it as like a big event. For me, it kind of feels like a grain of the sand falling from the hourglass. We're running out of time. We need to make sure that like the community is safe, that the community is taken care of, that we educate the community. We do as much as we can to help them. The Frontera Leadership Institute, taught by Ruben Cantu, has been a big help, and with it, I have been able to use that skill and education to teach other people, but I want to do more. And so thank you for what you've done, and I wish to be a part of it. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for the public comment. We're going to move on to our consent agenda items. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. If requested by a board member, any item can be taken off the consent agenda by the chair for individual consideration. We have 3.1, the approval of the meeting minutes. 3.2, approval of the accounts payable reports from October 1, 2024 to October 31st, 2024. consideration and action to enter into a professional maintenance services agreement with Central Air and Heating Supply in the amount of $19,600 over a period of 12 months. Services to begin on December 1st, 2024. And to approve the following individuals to incur travel expenses for the following: Corey Peña, Eric Quintero, Nelson Amaro, Eric Quintero, Victoria Padron, and Nathan Burkhart. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Mark?
Aye.
Okay, thank you,
Sorry,
Mark.
it's muted.
Okay, we're gonna move to item number 4, which is BCIC staff presentation. We have A, the president's update by Corey.
Thank you, Nelson, for the reminder. Always forget. I wanted to give you an update in regards to Hayden Partners. Last week, they gave us, we had a meeting, and they gave us their preliminary market findings so far of what for the marketability and the feasibility study at the Brownsville Sports Park. So basically, they looked at our our strategic plan for 2025 through 2029, as well as they did a SWOT analysis, talked to key stakeholders of the community, many of the park staff and city staff, including Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau's staff, Cameron County, PUB. We talked to quite a few people, GBEC as well. In regards to that, excuse me, I'm sorry. Out of that, there was key market findings out of their research. So site potential. The 31-acre site offers a opportunity to build on the sports park reputation as a destination for sports, community events, and tourism. Challenges, it's limited visibility and access to high-traffic areas, hinder retail and large-scale sporting viability. A weakness is that it's limited to we have limited high-wage job opportunities and infrastructure gaps, as well as healthcare accesses. In regards to that, they have recommendations. They have 3 recommendations for the sports park. The first recommendation is a event center scenario. The reason they have this as one is because the impact is very strong with enhanced tourism and community engagement. It features up to 45,000 square feet of event space for concerts, sports, and cultural events. That's roughly about 5,000 seating capacity. On site, 150-room upscale hotel, as well as food and beverage tenants. The challenge is that it would require quite a bit of public funding to do this. The second scenario is a residential scenario. The community focus would be on townhomes, rental townhomes, green space, and retail plaza for local use. The benefits is it's lower in public funding, and it has a modest impact. And the third, and what they recommend is the optimate recommendation, is a scenario of combining both the event center as well as the residential. So what makes that great about that is it has a lot more green space in regards to, it would involve having a parking garage, so you wouldn't see as much parking spaces. It would be all condensed in one area. The event center could be, actually, they have an opportunity to where it could expand eventually. The hotel is off the access of the sports park, and then it just is it's a great mix, especially with the lack of housing that we do have, rental housing. So the reason for the market and demographic insights is, I should tell you about this. So the inspiration in regards to the event center is they took it from Stride Bake Center in Oklahoma, as well as they looked at Nevada's Tahoe Blue Event Center. I asked them why not bigger, and the reason not bigger is, well, it can expand, but at 5,000 square feet, or 5,000 seat capacity, it would have a lot more use. It would be used a lot more than a 10,000 seat capacity. It also is not as expensive as a 10,000 seating capacity. And they were talking about how graduation concerts could really utilize this space. As you know, as we heard about UTRGV withdrawing their Brownsville graduation and moving all of that up to Edinburgh. And then they also pointed out, because each scenario they do have a little retail section, they didn't feel like it could hold a large retail plaza just for the fact that it's not on the expressway. The foot traffic, the car traffic doesn't deemed it to where it can support it. But they do recommend having something to support the event center or the residential area that are growing that way. And they made note that, you know, we could do a food hall inspiration focus on more of our cultural, you know, our heritage, since it is part of our strategic plan of, you know, focusing more on those elements. Another thing about the quality of life is green space, making sure that we incorporate in this development adequate green space, so that way there's a community opportunity to take advantage of concerts outside, festivals outside, events, you know, movie nights, food truck festivals and such. So based on that, what the next steps is, you know, wanting your feedback on what your thoughts are, and I will take it back to Hutton. And then from there, we will draft, or I won't draft, Hutton will be drafting a report of projections on all the scenarios. And then the final report will be done by the end of the December, and then we'll actually take that to the board in January on the findings. And from there, then we will move forward on the RFQ, the RFP process for the developer solicitation. So questions?
I do have a question about the number of seats in a stadium. I just quickly Googled our friends in Hidalgo County. Payne Arena is 7,000 seats.
And Bird Ogden is
Bird Ogden
97,
is
9,700.
9,000,
9,700.
9,700 seats. So this is smaller than both of those?
Yes.
I just wondered why we weren't at least trying to like match.
They were saying, one, because of the competition already there. Two is what they see over there is not utilized every day,
Right.
or quite as often as what at 5,000.
So I think you would get more rental.
We would get more, yeah.
And then can you get like events, like is that big enough to get events to come down?
It would be small events. Now, I
Like
asked
what,
them
though?
to look at project findings for a 10,000 seat capacity. So that way we can A and B. We just have to look at, when we A and B those, you know, what are we trying to get out of that, and how often, the usage, and what kind of impact.
Like, for example, they can bring down, with Payne Arena, they can bring down monster trucks. Can we bring monster trucks with the 5,000 seat arena? Probably not.
No,
So like, is it even worth, like, can you get anything, like, are we bringing more to our people in Brownsville, right? Like, if we can bring things,
no. They just feel,
because you don't want to build something just for graduations, right?
no, no.
It's a month.
And to go back to.
So what are the other events?
So they were looking at, like, you know, based on these two, that they're case studies. You know, you can have concerts on the flat floor. You can actually have ballroom seating. It's a flex space, so you
But I
can
guess my
actually
question is,
have
do-
tournaments and
Would
such for
concerts
sports.
even come, or it's just local concerts?
Now, from my understanding though, like concerts like the ones that you hear at Bird Ogden, because they have a non-compete clause on so many miles, we might not be able to compete with that. Other questions?
Can you turn on your mic, Murad?
Yes, sir. Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna keep it on, even if I cuss, it doesn't matter. I was saying that, I mean, obviously the mixed use is much more, attractive in terms of mixing the utilization of the site and bringing more footprint into the site and so
Agreed.
forth. But the parking situation, because with the mixed use, I don't see much more, are we talking about multi-story?
Building up.
Like building up?
Parking garage.
Okay.
Yeah, because
So-
right now, what they currently have in this scenario for the third one, yeah, we would have to build up on a parking garage to be
Okay.
able to accommodate the event center.
Okay, which goes back to Jill's comment. I mean, is it worth, because that's now additional investment, that's, parking garage, they cost a lot
Yeah.
to invest, or should we look into a definite alternative for this open space, amphitheater setting or something, right? Like, that's less costly, we might be able to accommodate more people, but still it's outdoor and,
Yeah.
it's covered and so anyway, so that's, alternatives. But I guess the concept, we're talking about the concept, whether we're gonna use, I mean, obviously, this is much more, in my opinion, much more valuable than just one
I
use,
agree.
which
I
is
think it's
event
a-
center.
And
I'm
it
not
accommodates everything that's building up around there.
I'm not understanding the pink, what's the pink? Because,
That's rental, that's the retail, that's retail area.
but we have two, I guess, just like, we have reddish, which is retail, and then we have, yeah, the pink
Yeah,
at the
it's
bottom.
retail,
That's the entertainment section area, like a.
Entertainment section.
Pavilion.
yeah.
Okay, so it's open space pavilions and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, I think once we get the cost analysis on each of the
Yeah,
scenarios,
I
I
was
think
gonna
that
say.
will actually help drive us on what route we go, but also we can look at what partners that we can help. I mean, Cameron County was, at one time looking to do, I think it was a 10,000 seat capacity arena over there in the Madera project.
And I think with the residential units, you can have also other partners to come in and
Yeah.
be interested in that. We have two major entities in town, and Cameron County Housing Authority, and many others that might, anyway.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
there's also opportunity, if we do something like this, the residential, we can sell that portion of the land. And so that proceeds can go for the build-out for the other parts.
Yeah. There is too many scenarios in this proposal.
Yeah. I like the idea, though, and it was also enlightening to know that they didn't recommend any sports or recreational, just because of, they were looking at Harlingen, they looked at McAllen, they looked at the region and state, and we already have a challenge of being at the southmost of Texas, so for traveling, it doesn't really help with getting those tournaments, but also the fields, the limited of the fields, McAllen and Harlingen have more fields, so they can actually go for the tournaments. So there's already, the market doesn't show that there is a need for it. We already have enough of, our fields to accommodate what is expected around in our area for regional tournaments, local and regional tournaments.
Corey,
Yeah.
this might be included in the final report, but I'm just looking at the map and just trying to think of, actually going. Is there an infrastructure component to that Sports Park Boulevard? Like, I'm just trying to imagine the 5,000 capacity building and residential and only one way in and out. Like, I only know that one way in and out, unless there's another way I just don't know about.
There, actually, would it be the county? I don't know if it's the county or the state. It might be TxDOT. They are actually improving Old Alice, which is right at the corner of Sports Park Boulevard. Old Alice going north, and they're going to actually build 4 lanes
Oh, okay.
with sidewalks and such. So that is supposed to be starting, I believe, next year.
Okay.
Yeah, there is an exit south on Amelia Lane. But that is it does go into, it's a very,
Narrow.
Yeah, it's pretty narrow. It doesn't really have your line, your
like-
lane striping and
So I
such.
guess maybe one question would be, to what extent, if this is the idea, does the future development align with the infrastructure that TxDOT is gonna do? Like, is that beginning 2025, ending 2028, right? Like, I have no
Yeah.
idea, but.
Yeah, and, as Nathan was mentioning before in our conversations, the city hosts the annual July 4th festivities, and it usually has more than an attendance of 5,000 people, and they have it down to where traffic control and such. Yeah. But still, you're right, though. We do need to account for, the growth. I did share with them that the release, the renderings and all that to Hudden when TxDOT, I believe it was TxDOT that announced it.
Had some questions and comments. I read the report and I do agree that they do feel the market is saturated to host tournaments in the sports park, and the travel distances and the cost for families to see a benefit to coming down from Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio may not attract as much. So I can see that, and I understand that, regionally between McAllen and some other areas, there may be other parks that are more developed that may attract big bids for conferences or tournaments. So I see the logic, and I like the proposal. I like the 3 recommendations. I think they have a lot of potential. To Jill's point about, what kind of events could be hosted there, I'm wondering if they can, in their research, they can include the type of events that could be hosted there. I know when I've gone to Bird Ogden and Payne Arena, I have noticed that they, even though it's a 9,000 and 7,000 seat capacity stadium, when they have the concerts, they cut it in half, right? So they're losing a lot of
They do.
seats. So
Also with the monster trucks.
with the monster trucks, yeah, so half of that venue is maybe, or a quarter of
Yeah.
that is for storage or for staging of whatever performance.
So I will go back and ask them to
Yeah.
give us, what, like you said, what we can do to host out of 5,000. And what are our challenges of getting the 10,000 with having the 2 arenas up there?
Yeah.
Just so that way we can A and B.
What's the McAllen Convention Center the big room there, the capacity?
I actually don't know.
And the theater too, because I've been to the theater for
The
kids'
performing arts,
theaters
I
are
want to say is
1,500
1,100 to
Yeah,
1,200.
3,500 for the town convention center.
So 5,000 is not bad.
Yes.
It's a good
I-
substantial.
On the UTRGV campus in Edinburgh, we have the field house where we have the basketball games. And that, with the floor seating packed, is close to 2,700 to 3,000.
1,800 for the McAllen Performing Arts Center.
Oh, it's 18, okay.
For the McAllen Performing Arts Center, the convention center is 3,500.
Okay.
So when we think of some of the events they've hosted there, like, pretty cool theater shows and maybe some smaller level
Yeah.
musicians and artists,
The
right?
Performing Arts Center is in use, but I don't know about the convention center. But that's different from all encompassing events.
There could be some artists that maybe don't have those non-competitive bids as well, right?
Yeah.
We're assuming that they have it.
Yeah, because if Live Nation or whatever, the
Like-
SeatGeek.
I think of a recent comedian, he had opened up another show because there was just so much demand for his performance at the McConnell Arts Center. There could be those opportunities as well in the future.
Okay.
They're like, oh, well, we're gonna play this night at McAllen and the opposite night in Brownsville. I don't know.
Mark, do you have any comments?
Yeah, so I'm wondering about how this will be, or any of these scenarios would be implemented. I know at one point you just said that if there was a split between residential and events, then you could sell off the residential part to fund the event center. So, but I mean, is this something that we are going to implement, or are we going to and like manage a contract and then own afterward? Or is there an arrangement where it's like a concession and, I mean, how exactly would this work?
Well, depending on the feasibility, the project projections, the cost, then the board will decide on how to move forward. And then with that, Hudden, it will be the manager for the solicitation for the developers and help us find the additional incentives that maybe Texas has to be able to fund some of these. And then we look for our public-private partnerships. So there will be
I guess what
recommendations of that as well.
I guess what I mean is, so for example, say we decide to go all in on an event center. Will we be building, hiring a contractor to build it and then owning it and managing it afterward, or at least hiring somebody to manage it?
That is still up with what is, we may just have the land and have a developer own it, or it might be city, or it might be county. I think those things are not known yet. They're the unknowns.
I think those are, that in a way for me is like the elephant in the room is, I think the corollary is the sports park, in that we went forward and managed the contract, and then we owned it. And then I guess it turned out that, previous boards really were realizing they didn't have the capacity, the staff and the board didn't have the capacity or the desire or the desire to run a sports park. So I'm just afraid that we may get into a situation like that again with another development. And so I think we're probably better suited to, finding other parties to bring together and say, what do you guys think? Is this a good idea? Is this something that you be willing to go in on? But I don't know how that sort of contractual arrangement would be. I mean, say you want to do an events, we find out, okay, splitting it between events and residential is really the way to go. And then we decide to either lease or sell the land, and if we sell the land, does that mean that the party that buys it is obligated to do an event center, or are they going to turn around and say, you know what, it's just the economics don't make sense. We're going to make a used car auto lot or something like that. So I'm trying to, I feel like this arrangement needs to be, I mean, I think it's good that we have our options about what these things could be, but I wonder what our role is going to be in helping this come to fruition.
Well, I definitely would say that our role on regards to managing the event center would be, I would recommend no. That I would look at it as how they assist with the Burke Ogden one. It was a city land, and they have it to where, Burke Ogden, it built it up and they manage it.
Who, Bert Ogden, you said
Yes.
manages it? Bert Ogden, that's the car dealership?
Well, I don't know if it's a car dealership, but who built it, which we know is Alonzo Cantu. So
So,
Burke
but
Ogden
it's
is
city
really
land.
just the naming rights.
Oh, I see. Okay, so then, so the city owns the land, but somebody else owns the building.
Yes,
Is that right?
yeah.
And okay, so then, but I'm sure you don't have all this in front of you or at the top of your head, but I do think getting more detail about how such a thing would be managed and would like lower our risk and maybe I think that needs to be fleshed out. I don't know if Hunden is the
That comes with the final report, the final report that we'll present to the board in January with the cost analysis of how each scenario is and what the cost is and what our role is in for each one of those.
Could I recommend
Okay.
maybe they could include some successful case studies similar to our region in their report, or even some business models of how those third parties have done that kind of work, so that we have a referencing point
Yeah.
to see this is how it works in other cities or other communities, and it helps us kind of understand, you know, what Mark's referencing.
What our role
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I agree.
Corey, just a follow-up,
And-
I would recommend not just in the region. Like case studies in general. Might be some findings or learnings outside of the region
Yeah.
that we could emulate, that might be a better fit.
I agree.
Yeah, because I think of other regions I've been to, and it reminds me, I think in Rhode Island, I went to a conference there, and there was a 5,000. I always felt, man, this is really nice. It's kind of small, but they were able to do a lot of things in that little theater.
Anyone else?
No, I mean, this is a good start.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Mark, there is too many details still to come in, but that's the expected, right? Like, this is the initial draft, and then we'll look into the details and the cost analysis and the strategic partners that could be part of this, and come up with ideas of how we're gonna create these kind of relationships.
Yes.
So, that's not, you know, this is just a start, so it's a good start.
Super
Thank you.
exciting. Thank you for
Yeah, it
bringing
is.
it to us.
So,
We have
one
questions.
last question, though.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry,
Go
one
ahead.
last question. So and if I understand correctly, you all had met with the county about this, is that right?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again, Mark?
Did you all meet with the county? Because I know that they were interested
Yes.
and how did they feel about an event center at this
Well,
location?
they don't know about the findings. I'm
All
first just
right.
showing it to the board, and then from getting the feedback from you guys. And then from there, I don't know, I will get with Hudden to say, is that something I need to start having conversations with? Or do we want to wait until, I actually think we need to wait till we have
Yeah.
the cost.
But I caution us, the board, because we're the first one to see this, we're not gonna go out and start saying event center, because obviously the plan is not event center. The plan is a mixed-use development.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful, because the initial message will stick. So, I mean, we're already saying event center. Yes, the event center is a major component of it, but it's not the only thing, right? And that's what we're leaning to, I guess, from our feedback. We're not saying just the event center, we're saying the mixed-use possibilities with some tweaking, obviously. I mean, there are a lot of changes, quick changes that could be done to enhance and improve the capacity of our event area. For example, relocating the open entertainment area nearby the event center, and there are design ideas where you can open up the interior with the exterior, and here we go, you double the
Yeah.
space, right? So there are, you know, a lot of improvements to the idea, but the concept, the message should be, you know, mixed use.
Agree.
Rather than event center.
Yeah.
The event center is a component of it, so.
Perhaps we could
Yeah, I'm-
agree to call it arena when we refer to it. I think that we might strike while the iron is hot on this, since there's so much pain about lack of facility for a graduation, that if we talk about having an arena with capacity to host events such as graduations, concerts, et cetera, it might go down smoother than talking about another event center.
I mentioned the county because I do believe if we, you know, I would be curious to know how they, since they have been wanting to do an event center for the past couple election cycles, and it so narrowly was defeated, then perhaps there may be some interest in partnering with us, and perhaps we could leverage hotel occupancy
Yes.
tax money. So you know, when I was looking at the way the elections went down, Brownsville, the majority of the precincts, or I should say the precincts in Brownsville, almost all of them, a majority of them voted for the arena. In Northern Cameron County, they didn't. And that's why they went down. And I think there were a bunch of city elections and local elections up in Northern Cameron County, and so that's why those measures were defeated. So I think, you know, we could be able to leverage a greater, you know, fund to make sure that this is successful, so that it's just a way to leverage more money.
Yeah, it needs to be a win across the board.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this item. We're really excited to move forward on our mixed-use plan. We're going to go to our next agenda item, which is discussion and consideration and acknowledgement of the October 2024 financial report. Do we have someone from the city? Welcome, welcome. Welcome back.
Everyone, this is Steven. He was here at our last board meeting.
All right, thank you
Yeah.
for having me back. I'll go over the fiscal year 2025 October update for you guys. Do I have a clicker? There we go.
Thank you, Nelson.
Yeah, so here we have the balance sheet. Your cash on hand is 494,000. Investments, 15.1 million. Accounts receivable, 635,000 for total assets of 16.3 million. Accounts payable, 926,000 for total liabilities. And then we have our fund balances. Restricted is at 389,000. That comprises the city services. And the big portion of that is the debt service airport payment. The committed balance there, I just want to make a quick update. It says 7.9 million, but it's 7,885,249. And I believe that's reflected in your handout. We just didn't have time to update the PowerPoint. The assigned is 110,000, and rainy day fund 3 million, unrestricted 3.9 million. And the total fund balance is about 45,000 less because of that adjustment. It's 15293,014. And that is correct in your packet.
I'm sorry, just quick question. This is for the first month,
Yes.
or, okay. And so then unrestricted 3.9 million. Can you go into depth on that one a little bit more?
So that's the unallocated portion that you have. So that's what you have available to assign to grants or entrepreneur projects. Does that make sense?
I think it's.
Right,
Go ahead, Mark. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I thought, I understood that the assigned was our budget. And so I was expecting, the way we wrote our budget was, I think, about 13, 14 million. And so I was expecting assigned to have that value.
Right now, the assigned just comprises the entrepreneurial and innovation projects that you have, which is 110,000. That's what you have there.
And, okay. All right, well,
Could you explain, I think it might be a confusion on what assigned means in our budget, because assigned it's a rollover, so to speak, from our previous budget year for our programs in regards to our entrepreneurship. That, for instance, Startup Texas, we haven't been able to initiate the agreements yet, so that those funds, even though we had the event, 2 months ago, which I think their contracts, or agreements are on this agenda, those were rolled over, so that was assigned.
Okay, I can look into that and see if that needs to be adjusted, but that's what we have right now.
We have the committed, but we also have the actual, invoiced amounts. That's my understanding of that signed, right? Like, it's already been paid or.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Or it's about
Versus
to,
committed is, yes, it's committed, but this hasn't been utilized yet.
yes.
That money.
And like
You know,
committed is
so-
a lot of our big grants and our
Big
quality of life,
and all
because
that, so
those
that-
are all
So
reimbursements.
we have them committed, but they're not given
Yeah.
yet, like they're not being invoiced yet.
Yeah. My question, though, is the unrestricted. I feel like it should not be that high, so I was curious on where the funds came from that.
Okay, we can check. I'll double check to see if there shouldn't be some of that in the assigned category, and get back to you guys on that.
I mean, a side comment, like, we always have these questions, and I feel like you guys, Corey, and the city should have these things cleared out before we get to the meeting, because we always leave the meeting and still have questions and we don't have answers.
I agree.
Most of the time, so, just FYI, thank you.
On this next slide, we have the budget to actuals comparison, and you can see your last year's amount too. We have sales tax. We have not received it. You see a 0 there for fiscal year '25. We have not received October's yet. On the interest, we did receive 61,000. The EDA TAMU contributions, that's all TAMU, by the way, 150,000. No sponsorships yet, and we have 7,000 in miscellaneous revenues for total revenues of 219,000. The admin costs for October, 98,000. Strategic initiatives, about $1 million, a little over, and that's almost entirely the Musco lights that you're working with the city on, for a total of expenditures of 1.1 million, and change in net position, because we're missing the sales tax, is negative 885,000. Any questions on these?
Want to say
This
thank
slide
you?
just shows the last year's total sales tax. We were missing September last time I was up here. We did receive that, 628,000. So we ended last year with 7.6 million, or 307,000 more than the prior year. Here's another look at the sales tax history, going back to fiscal year 2020. And then your budgeted amount for fiscal year 2025 is 7.1 million. And this is just another look at the fund balances, and again, I'll look into the assigned balances. Nope. All right, I think that's it for my portion.
Are there
Any other questions?
I
Yeah,
have one.
Go ahead.
Stephen, thank you so much. Would it be possible, maybe you can work with the staff to add a list of definitions for the balance sheet? Maybe at least for the next meeting, a cheat sheet. I think just not for us, maybe we'll look at this more often, but I'm thinking for the public, people see this online or they download this, and that might help kind of create some transparency so they know what these accounts represent and where the funds are going to.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Motion to acknowledge.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item number 6, which is consideration and action on accountability and transparency in operations. A, provide executive session materials electronically to board members at least 72 hours prior to meetings. B, post meeting packets on the BCIC website no later than 72 hours before meetings. C, publish meeting minutes for full board and committee meetings on the BCIC website within 24 hours of board approval. D, notify all board members of upcoming committee meetings at least 72 hours in advance. E, publish the final annual budget on the BCIC website immediately after approval by the City of Brownsville or BCIC if amended. And F, conduct annual financial and compliance audits to ensure fiscal responsibility and adherence to government standards. That's it.
Board, this was requested to be added on by Mark. Mark, do you want to take this?
This was mentioned at the end of, I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before that. And I just think that these would be helpful for the public. And I'm thinking about most of these items. And I do think that it would be nice to have a little bit more formalized, having executive session materials in advance and not at the moment that we are having executive session. For F, I'm thinking, I wanted to dive into that a little bit more, and I was talking with Raphael at the city about how they do audits. And they have the city has their annual financial comprehensive report, which includes BCIC, but they do not have they do not audit BCIC at the depth that they do for the rest of the city. It's more like just a black box. And so I think that we have had audit, like a proposed audit in our budget in the past, and it wasn't carried out. I think it would be good if we get in the practice of doing that again. I mean, I'm not even sure. No audit has been done since I've been here, or at least I haven't seen an audit. And judging from other units, local government units, it seems that an audit, a standardized audit, is helpful not only for the board, but I think for the public as well. And as far as the compliance audits, that's very much like the how the city has their city auditor, and how they evaluate different projects, programs, operations within their city. And it's kind of like they have like I guess you could say an inspector general, or how, if you're familiar with the federal government, they have an inspector general that does, regular audits of programs and projects within agencies. The city is, it's a large bureaucracy, and they're focused on, BCIC is just one small part of their focus. So I think that it would be good if we also had some regular, I mean, it could be as needed, it could be annual, biannual, whatever. But I think that considering that a year ago they were auditing BCIC and it has yet to be released, I think that perhaps we could hire a third party to do a compliance audit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, I like the idea, or support the idea. I think a third party, again, given Mark's concerns that the city is complicated, right? And
Yeah.
whoever's auditing that, BCIC might get lost in the shuffle.
Right.
I think it could only enhance BCIC's ability, again, to be more efficient and accountable going forward. I wouldn't see this as a bad thing. I would see
Agree.
it as like, how is it an opportunity to have an outside perspective to help think about how can we streamline or increase efficiencies or develop, like this that we're talking about right now, give 72 hours of this. These are all sort of internal governance standards, right? And so maybe more of this would come as a result of having an internal, like suggestions. So I really see it as an opportunity to sort of strengthen BCIC's sort of core operating functions, as opposed to, oh no, an audit, right? So I think I
agree.
I see it as really a positive opportunity. And then I would just, on E, I would make that same thing, 24 hours, 72 hours, whatever, immediately is just immediately when. So those are my only suggestions for it. I see this as a plus.
On C, I don't see a need for the committee meetings to be posted, minutes. The full board, of course, we do that already, and we should.
Yeah.
But the committee meetings, the way I see it, it's a working sessions. There is a lot of ins and outs. There is too much details that nobody will benefit from to have anyway. Besides adding more stress on the staff to keep taking minutes of these committees. We have several of these, so, and it's not a common thing anyway. Like, I don't see many.
And we
entities.
take it to the board for the actual actions from whatever we talk about in the committee. So in our minutes, we don't get, the
That's what I'm
minutes we
saying, like,
take
so-
for the committee, we don't take for the board for approval.
So I don't see a need for having the committee meetings minutes on board, published, but the board meeting, of course, and we're really doing that anyway, so.
That's my question. From this, what is different than what we actually do right now? Like, can you call it the differences? Like, this is the future state that Mark is suggesting?
Yeah.
Like, for number one, is that the case right now?
We try our hardest. There's times where we don't have the documents because we're pending a third party to
Right.
submit it to us. So why we want to stay 72, sometimes it is out of our hands. B, we don't post our meeting packets on our website. We post our agenda, but we don't post the binders.
Are we required to share
We're
the
not
binder?
required.
Okay.
That's why we have the Public Information Act. So citizens, anyone can come and ask for the binders and all that if they do wish. And then we have 10 days to provide
Can I
it.
ask Mark, what was your rationale then for number 2? Why do you think that the meeting packet should be posted?
It's no skin off our teeth to do it, and, you know, the more information that the public has at its fingertips, I think the better. Plus, it follows other practice, you know, other local government units that do the same. The city posts their packets on their website. I believe they do for the other, or some of the committees or the boards that they have do the same. I from a public standpoint, I see when I have to go to a government to ask for information that is already public, and I have to go through all the red tape to get it, it's just it makes you lose faith in government, because it feels like there's always barriers for the public to getting information. I think this is, having a packet is a good thing. And plus, just from my own personal experience, I've had people from the public ask me questions, and I'm like, well, it's in the packet. And I have to send it to them. And these are people who know me. And so I am wondering, for every one person that asked me, there's probably 20, 50 people who are wondering the same thing, who'd love to have that information, but don't. They don't know how to ask for it.
Thank you for sharing.
In
Go ahead.
regards to C,
See?
we try to put the meeting minutes the following day after it's approved, but it hints on if we can get both signatures. So there are times when one of the board members that are authorized to sign the meeting minutes did not come to the meeting, so we're waiting pending electronic signature. So that doesn't necessarily always happen within the next day. Item D, I mean, we can do that, but we have at last minute, hey, can you meet? We contact our committee members, can you meet tomorrow? Is there availability for tomorrow? Sometimes we look at, it'd be great if we could have, within 3 days, but we also try to work with everybody's schedule. That's part of the committee. Item E and F, I agree.
For the committee meetings, shouldn't the committee set up these meetings themselves? Like the chair of that committee or whatever members?
We've
that
never
shouldn't have
appointed a
regular-
chair on that
like-
committee, but
not
that's
chair, but
actually a
like,
good idea.
Shouldn't the committees create their own schedule for when they're gonna meet?
Usually we have it, the staff who's overseeing that committee arranges the dates, the meeting dates.
I do worry about the stress levels of the staff, or even the priorities when, and there's a lot of, just this binder alone is a lot to put together. So I worry a little bit about how much advance notice we're requiring for a lot of these things. So for example, B, posting the meeting packets, less than 72 hours. So is there a middle ground there? How much could it maybe give you more time to post that? Will that help? Or if you're feeling like you can't pull off the 72 hours?
But she's saying right now, we don't post the meeting packets ever at all. They're not posted. The agenda's posted.
Oh, okay. Which is typical. So it's either, so the agenda or the meeting packets, we're not doing it currently. Okay. And then committee meetings, I think I agree. I think it's tough to get these committees going. It'd be nice to have advance notice. Maybe we can say, recommend to try your best to give us 72 hours notice, but not necessarily a mandate to do it. Remind me, I thought we already voted, so did we already vote to announce 72 hours for the meetings notice in the previous meeting?
This is executive session.
Oh, this is for executive session. Oh, so,
On A.
oh, okay, on A. Okay, and, I'm curious, does GBIC have similar standards for their meetings?
I'm sorry, Mark, I'm sorry, I actually do not know on that.
Okay.
I can find out.
Yeah, that might be helpful. And the last one, I know when we say audits, I think back, there's different levels of audits, right? There's kind of like a soft overview audits, and there's deeper levels of audits. Is this like a deeper level audit that we would ask annually, or? And then I kind of wonder, what are the costs to that?
Yeah, we would have to go for an RFQ and then an RFP on that to then, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could always do like certain ones annually and then more of a deeper dive every so many years on that.
Yeah, because I even think of some of our grants, when we ask nonprofits to apply, we usually ask for like a certain level audit. It's not a deep audit, but it's like, I don't know what it's called, the CPA.
Well, we removed that
The
for,
CPA have a term for that, I forget, but I'm wondering if that's what this is.
I can look it up.
We can look into
Yeah, we can look at the
levels of
the
audits
levels
that
of-
exist.
Do you
Thank
think?
Yeah, I think for F, we could just say, you know, have staff give us a recommendation for that, for both the type of financial audit and, you know, perhaps with the compliance audits, you know, it could just be what they would look like, and maybe a recommendation. I mean, because I think that with a compliance audit, it could be just as needed, you know, from the board. We could say like, we'd like to have a compliance audit, but as far as operationalizing it, you know, there's probably several steps between saying, I'd like an audit, and to actually carrying it out. So I'd like for the staff to say like, well, what are all those steps that would be needed to have an audit, so that when we do decide, okay, we would like to have an audit for this program, then, you know, within a month it could start, that sort of thing.
Usually the auditors will ask, they'll like survey the staff about areas of risk, and then they'll make a recommendation. That's at least been my experience. They'll make a recommendation, like, I feel like you should audit this, and this program, or this area.
yeah. Yeah, but that's even what the city does. They gave us a whole survey.
Like a
of-
questionnaire,
Mhm,
yeah.
a
And then they
questionnaire.
evaluate what's the most risky.
Yeah,
Yes, Tracy?
Our current budget doesn't include any kind of line items for budgets, so I would recommend, audits. I would recommend that item F maybe be taken into consideration for fiscal year '26 budget.
For the 3 items that are supposed to occur before a meeting, one thing to consider is whether this is the goal that you want to strive for, or whether it's a requirement to have the meeting. So if the materials aren't provided or the notice isn't provided, does that mean that the meeting is going to be postponed?
Well, I guess my thought was for the first 4, what's written on our pages, Mark's ideas about it, which I think you bring a lot of good points. I wonder if maybe a next step could be to have the staff go back and write them as, like, we want to make sure that everything is reasonable, right? And it sounds like some of the requirements written here, like she said with C, like, they can't put the minutes until they get the signature. If the person's not at the meeting, like, I'm not sure that was all considered. So what would be more, how could you make it like reasonable, actionable? I don't know what the right word
No.
is, but like very doable so that you could actually do it.
another thing that we could also do is, instead of having it as these action items, we can, and Victoria has already worked on them, is the SOPs for our board meetings. So the standard operation procedures. And then we can take that to the board so that the whole entirety of how we operate.
I love that idea. I think if you could say standard operating procedures for executive session materials,
Yeah.
packets, committee meetings, and so, and then audits, like what's our
Yeah.
operating procedure for audits?
Are we still keeping the committee meetings to be published? That's not. or
I
is
guess
that
my,
gonna be-
my suggestion is you don't make it you make it not as a policy, but you make it as an operating procedure. So it's like one level down. So like, for example, if you said, like, if you made it a policy, executive session materials to board members at least 72 hours in advance. Let's say it's 71 hours because they're waiting for someone to pull something back and they send it to us, 70 hours. If it's a standard operating procedure, you can still move forward and have the meeting.
I understand
If it's a
that.
policy,
No,
then you can't
yeah,
have
I
the meeting.
understand that. Meeting minutes for full board. I think that should be it. That should be sufficient. We shouldn't include the committee meetings minutes. I mean, we shouldn't just take that out of the language.
Could we send this, could we table this, send it back to staff, ask for these to be reworked for reasonability, and then bring back to the next meeting?
Now, would that reasonability be like in the SOP?
Well, so for instance, is the word immediately reasonable? No, clearly
Okay.
it's not. There's things that need to be, in committee minutes, they're not official because we don't, there's no actions taken, right? So I feel like this needs some refining before we take action.
I agree with Tracy. One more thing.
Mike.
Mike. I agree with Tracy. One more thing. I would love, Corey, for you and the staff to think somewhat about what's the staff capacity for the audit and compliance. Like, obviously, in much larger organizations, there's a compliance officer. Right?
Yeah.
This is a smaller organization, but, right, like, it can get kind of,
It does.
right,
When
complicated.
we had to give it the city twice because of the turnover that they had, and they didn't have the documents, so we had to, luckily, we had them on, most of them, already in a file to
Right.
send over, but it was a lengthy.
So maybe in addition to what you're considering here, and sort of internal evaluation of like, where would this live? Is
Okay.
it Victoria's world? Is it someone else's, on the staff? I think that would be helpful too. Just to not overtax, right?
Yeah, I like that as well.
So, I'm sorry. Okay. So I just want to remind everybody that in the bylaws for committees of the board, section 309 says, each committee so designated shall keep regular minutes of the transactions of its meetings and shall cause such meetings to be recorded in books kept for the purpose in the principal office of the corporation. And any such meetings must be conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act, if applicable. So, I'm not saying anything that isn't already in our, bylaws. It's what I'm saying is this is more of a reminder, I suppose, that minutes need to be recorded. And I say this because there are committees that are meeting that where something comes to us a few days before the meeting, and I had no idea that this was even being discussed. And perhaps there could have been, more dialogue about and more prep for the other 4 board members when 3 are off to the side preparing something in depth. I understand the purpose of the committees are to divide up some of the work and for those 3 to go in depth, but I think also it is helpful, and I think it's evident in the bylaws that the meetings are recorded or the minutes are recorded, and if they're recorded, they should be provided to the other board members.
But you talk about two things now. You talk about recording the minutes to share it with the board versus recording the minutes to publish it on the website. My
Right.
my
And I-
reservation on the website because, as I said, usually the committee meetings are less organized, they're very informal, and there is a lot of detailing that goes into it, and as Tracy mentioned, there is no action taking. So I'm trying to understand what's the point of publish it on the website. As far as keeping a summary of it and keeping a minute, yeah, that's given.
I mean, I feel like our
And
board
the other
meetings
thing is
are,
like, are we gonna have to have these are we gonna rely on these committees to make our board meetings more efficient? Or are we gonna still discussing every single item coming to the board? So what's the point of the committees then? You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're not gonna trust the input with discussion about the input, and we have these before, when we will discuss some inputs and we can come up with, but in general, the idea is to make the meetings more efficient, so we have the different committees look into the specifics in depth, as you mentioned, and come to the board with recommendations, and then the board can either vote or discuss it, rather than spend,
and the meeting minutes would be helpful in advance.
for the board members. Yes, I agree with you. Yes.
Okay.
But your
so
action
then,
here is to publish it. That's what I'm saying. Like, why publish the package for the board? I mean, that's another question. But why? Sorry, the minutes for the board meetings. We should and we have to, and it's been done. I'm talking about why we need to publish it on the website for the committees. That's my question. Like, we don't need to.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you guys for input. Let's,
Motion to table?
We have a motion to table.
Second.
We have a second.
Well, I
ahead.
mean, is it a motion for the staff to rework and then represent? Is that what it is intended for by table?
Yes.
Yes.
Or does that, I'm going to ask legal here, is that implied? Does that need to be stated?
That's entirely up to the board. The staff has heard the discussion of what the board wants. It's not a legal opinion,
Okay.
but that means it's in the staff's best interest to do what they know the board is hoping to see at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we've got a motion and we've got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mark, for bringing the item and always looking to make us better. Here we go, we're gonna move on to item number 7, which is consideration and action to enter into a performance agreement with the following 2024 Startup Texas winners for the SBIR-STTR Innovation Competition in partnership with the Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station. Do I need to read A and B?
No, I'll read them.
Okay.
Good evening, board members. 2 months ago now, September 12th on Thursday, we had our 8th annual demo day / pitch competition for Startup Texas. This one being specific to SBIR STTR programming in partnership with Texas A&M University. The funding for this entire program, half of the seed fund, as well as all of the administrative costs are actually sponsored by Texas A&M. We had 3 businesses win. AccuCell won first place, second place was Heroica Technologies, and third place was the Partnership Institute. This board has already approved AccuCell's performance agreement. The last board meeting, we're just now going to do the second and third place winner. Second place was Heroica Technologies. They bring to market next generation photonics to improve the size, weight, and performance of photonic integrated circuits, chemical sensors, and infrared imaging systems. They're really, really tiny and small. It's almost like nano manufacturing. They plan to utilize their $20,000, 13,000 of it on a UTRGV student for 1 year to assist them in the development of the product. $7,000 of the grant is actually going to be implemented for cybersecurity compliance controls. Some of this product they actually want to get a DoD contract for, and they also want to utilize it with some school districts, both of which require a heavy amount of cybersecurity. Their timeline for this is hopefully by spring, they will be submitting their full submission to the SBIR SDTR program for up to $250,000 of research that would be provided here within Brownsville. That's what this specific program is about. Whereas most of the performance agreements for Startup Texas have been brought to you about how they're going to scale their ventures or operate here in Brownsville. This program is specific to SBIR SDTR programming in that they need to apply to the government research program. Hopefully they'll get accepted. If they don't, I mean, as long as, you know, we try our best. Second is the Partnership Institute. This was the third place winner of $10,000. They do a lot of educational content utilizing AI and VR equipment. They're going to utilize $10,000 of the equipment on a preliminary testing of their second prototype. Actually, all of the funding is going directly to the equipment. And their project timeline is for this time next year, in September of 25, to submit an SBIR SDTR application as well. And I will open it up the floor for questions.
Jill had to step out momentarily. Mark, are you okay to run this motion?
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right, any questions, guys, on this motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? No other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and I see that Jill has returned.
Thank you, board members. Actually, I'm going to wait for Jill to do this. My bad.
Okay, item 8 is consideration and action on the reallocation of grant funding for Startup Texas winner William Brown of Embedded in the amount of $14,505.
All right, this is William Brown. He won the SBIR competition last year. We've given him 2 rounds of funding, the second place winning of $20,000, and then he got an additional $10,000 that all of the graduates are applicable for, so long as it goes towards their application or getting them to apply to an SBIR program. This was the original obligations for the $20,000. Item 1 is what he would like to reallocate. Of that $10,000, $500 has already been spent, but he wants to put the rest of the $9,500 into regulatory compliance with the FDA and a few other key necessary compliances in order to successfully get that SBIR SDTR program. That's from the first grant. The second grant, he received $10,000. He wants to allocate $5,000 of it to the same procurement of the same regulations with those specific departments. This all is okay with me, and it's also okay with Texas A&M, who provided the funding to him.
Do you have any questions?
Just curious, these regulations, requirements were like, they were not aware of it before when they applied
He's
for the grant?
pivoted his product. His product is different from when he first started. So because of this new product, there's a few more regulations that he needs to do.
And Texas A&M is the
Provider of
funder
the
for
funds.
this grant, and they're okay with it?
They're okay with it, yeah.
We have a letter, we have a document for that.
I spoke with the program director, and she was totally fine with it.
We have written
I
communication.
can get a written communication, CYA. Yeah, I can do that.
So I would table this until we get written communication from the Texas A&M.
Could you pass it with the amendment that we received a written communication that the reallocation of the business obligations are okay with Texas A&M?
Yes, that's what I was going to
Okay.
suggest, that the motion be, that it be reallocated subject to receipt of written
Yeah.
approval.
I, in retrospect, should have received a follow-up email and included in your backup items, but
You know where I'm going with this, right?
No,
Like,
no,
we don't
for
want the grantor to be like, I didn't approve this. So,
totally get
all
it.
right, thank
No,
you.
their main goal is how many people we can get to apply to the SBIR and then get that funding successfully. So whatever means that is.
I'm not questioning that, I'm just, you know,
So
things
the-
change, people change, you know.
Totally get it. No,
Thank
yeah,
you.
you're right, you're right.
Okay, who wants to make that motion?
Yeah, so the motion would be as it is, but with the backup.
Approve
Subject
the
to.
relocation subject to receiving written communication from Texas A&M to approve this change.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to number 9, which is consideration and action to approve the following fiscal year 2025 business improvement and growth big property improvement applications. We have A, which is 1128B East Washington Street, Whiskero Hospitality Group Incorporated, Martin Cavazos, in the amount of $14,000 for facade and $35,000 for interior and MEP improvements for standard rehab. And B, which is 934 East Adams Street, Rocla LLC, Roberto Rodriguez, in the amount of $23,072 for extensive rehab.
Thank you. Good evening, board. I'm going to have two applications, like we stated, for the rehab. First is presenting for Whiskero Hospitality. I did speak with Mr. Cavazos. We did refer to Ms. Perez and Mr. Velez. He went ahead and resubmitted it. He is not going to be working on the facade. It's not going to be, on the awning. It's not going to be touched. However, they did agree that he will be working the facade of just his storefront, and he will be cleaning up and removing the boards from the top of the building. So the only thing that will be left is going to be that bottom right portion right here. And that's just going to be strictly, it's being used by Ms. Gloria as storage. Other than that, the entire facade for his portion of the building will be used, and the top part will be removing all the boards and cleaning.
So
Power
clarification,
washing.
the boards across the whole front are coming off?
Yes, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
they did come into an agreement where they will be not restoring, but power washing, cleaning, and removing the boards.
Do we know I was gonna ask, what's underneath the boards? Is it just glass windows or?
Yes, it's just glass windows that's just vacant. Nothing's being used. If there is any broken, it will be taken care of. He did say that he will be making it presentable. And that was an agreement that was established between him and Ms. Perez.
And then on his portion of the facade, which is on the left-hand side of the picture, so those transom windows will be exposed. On the opposite storefront, because this building does have two storefronts, like Eric was saying, the second storefront is not currently, it's vacant, but is being utilized as storage for Rutledge. So Eric has been talking with the owner, Ms. Perez, and she is not up for, she doesn't want to entertain on, moving forward and doing any improvements for the whole entire building.
Oh, I do? Oh, nice. Thank you. Yes.
On the storage for Rutledge, is it like, can you see into that, or are the windows at least have curtains, or, just curious?
It's storage for Rutledge. It's open.
You can see it. She makes it, the storefront.
She makes it look like it's actual storefront, but nothing. There's no way to come in and out.
Yeah.
The Preservation Commission, they're okay with just opening two transom windows without the rest of the transom windows being fixed? Just
Yes,
like the
because
other-
that's his portion, and when they met with historical, it was just going to be that specific spot that would be touched up. They did meet in reference to everything else, which is where they presented the tax benefits and everything that could be done. But like we said, Ms. Perez not want to move forward with that. So that's where Mr. Cavazos did come to an agreement with her of where they could, meet halfway to still have the building be, washed, clean, presentable, and he still gets some assistance for his portion of the facade.
Eric, remind me again, did you mention that the historic board or Ms. Juan Velez, if he said if this building was a low or moderate consideration building, like if
Moderate.
moderate?
Yes, so apart from cleaning and restoring the facade, again, it's repairing stucco, woodwork, trim, and full restoration of the interior for the MEP. It's $14,000 for the facade and $35,000 for the interior and MEP.
What's the estimated cost for this The actual, like the full estimated cost.
112,700.
How much of that for the facade?
I would have to look at my notes, but the facade, it was not more than, it was under 30. So it's,
I believe we're only, the Grand Mount, how much are we doing for the facade for Grand Mount?
14,000.
Yeah, but that's for all of it, but for just, if you can recall, for just the facade, because it was a 50/50. And we had a max. Max is 25.
max is 25, total that he's,
I wanted to say our portion, so I think it was 25,000 or less.
correct, yes.
So that was
Sorry,
like,
yes,
it
that's
was
what you're
like
asking,
12 or
yes, 20,000.
13,000 of big grant that he was requesting for the facade.
It's 14,000, it says here.
It says 14,000?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
14,000 for the facade, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking, how much is
So
it total
14
cost?
plus, so it's 28,000 he was gonna spend on facade. Again, this is a tenant and not the property owner.
And what's the intention again of this, like what he's gonna do?
It's gonna
inside?
be a whiskey-themed bar.
You said whiskey themed bar?
Yes, ma'am. So it would be infusions into the food as well, with whiskey flavors for desserts, entrees, main course meals, apart from having the usual nightlife.
So a restaurant and bar.
Does he have a feasibility study for this? Like, is it,
A
does he
full
have that?
business plan and
like
everything?
the-
Yes.
The grease for, trap for this, for the restaurant, and if he's gonna have food, I mean, I
Yes.
just, I don't know if he's talking to the cities or whatever I hate for him to, because now he's taking the lead in fixing a facade for a building that he doesn't own stuff. And if his vision doesn't really align with what's feasible in this little space. Because, if you have a restaurant, then you're gonna have to run into other requirements. Sprinkler
So
system,
he did
this,
provide a
that.
business plan, which I did send in the previous packet,
Yeah.
where he did do a comparison to other bars and with traffic, demographics, everything, because he has owned previous businesses in the past. And he also did break down where he spoke with the city, and he did speak with, like I said, historic, and comparing it to other downtown locations. As far as the facade and, things of that matter, that was just him really having the passion and wanting to work with Miss Bettis, just because he knows that she's been established in downtown for so long, that he doesn't really see it as extra work for him, but more as, legacy and wanting to work with the community.
In regards to, he does have city permits,
For a food?
but
Yes, everything.
supposedly for everything, but we have learned from previous that even though they have all the permits, they pass it through, the state passes through without having other entities approve it.
That's some, like.
Yeah,
that's-
so-
Especially when you say food, like
Yeah.
that triggers something else.
But he wouldn't be able to, he would only be able to get a temporary CO without that grease trap. I know, I can only speak on assuming that because he has the permits, but I am hoping that he did go through as well as that PUB proved it or he stated what his grease trap
And
capacity
again,
is supposed to be.
You know me, I'm always advocating for providing support for
Yeah.
business owners who want to invest in downtown, but we also learn from the past. Like, we don't want to start a path where the owners get trapped into this, and then we start like blaming each other, like we're not supporting him, we're not giving him the money. You know what I'm saying? And there is more into the project than what it is. So that's why I'm asking this question. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
questioning his intent. I'm just trying to point out that we had experiences before where we're hoping or trying to support these owners, but then it turned out there's two more complicated factors that were not taken into consideration.
Right.
And that, when you said food, like grease trap, this, that, like,
Yeah.
fire protection, food, health situations. So I don't know, that's why I'm just asking the questions, and it seemed like you have answer for everything.
Well, we did do our due diligence because this is you tabled this last board meeting. So Eric did his due diligence in regards to contacting the owner, working with the tenant, talking with Mr. Bellis, in making sure that we understood the full scope of the project and the intent of, you know, what it was gonna be used for.
In the big grant, or in the application process, is there maybe a section that can be included, some of the recommendations and that BCIC from the staff have experienced, so that, you know, these owners are aware of some of the challenges, whether it's a permitting process or that it's just at the city level, there may be other challenges, so they fully know the
What they're getting
challenges.
themselves into,
Yeah.
the challenges? Yes, I think that's a great idea as well. We also, in regards to that, Nathan has been working on, working with the different entities, the city, PUB, fire, and so we could co-host, BCIC and eBridge can co-host, permitting info sessions. So that help with not only the entrepreneurs, but also with any participants with our grants.
Awesome. You want to go and tell us a little bit about B?
Yes. Letter B would be an extensive rehab for Rocla LLC. It is owned by Mr. Roberto Rodriguez. It is going to be a taco and beer restaurant / bar. He is asking for $23,000 to be able to cover the exterior wash of the facade and sign installation. The focus will be on installation of the HVAC, walls, insulation, framing, as well as full restoration of the MEP. As you can see, the building is entirely bare. It used to be a dry cleaning business before. So he went ahead and bought the building out towards the end of last year, and now he wants to move forward with a bar and taco and beer. So the idea is to have an open nightlife, an open restaurant after the nightlife time.
To cater the after
After hours.
party, after our party, after our crowd.
Yeah, with this project, he's looking to bring on 9 full-time employees and between 8 to 10 part-timers, with the hours of operation being Tuesday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Friday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 4 a.m.
I'm trying to remember, it's on Adams, is
I'm
that
looking at-
closer to Washington Park, the location of this?
It's right by New York.
Behind the city parking lot?
So, between 9th and 10th on Adams.
I need to drive by.
Near the library.
Fire station.
Is that parking to the right of the building?
That's actually for a,
Another business.
it's a lending company.
They can use the city's lot.
I don't know that building.
Yes. Yes, he did ask, about the parking.
Oh, okay.
And Nueva York is, the new Nueva York
I
Steakhouse?
believe it's two to the right or to the left.
Yeah, Steakhouse is close by.
It's on the corner.
It
Okay.
shares an alley with the G-Bic now.
Other questions? Okay, are we doing this as one, or we're doing them separately? Separately, okay. Do we have any motions for 9A?
Motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny? Okay.
Second.
Oh,
And I'm seconding, just based off my comments from last month about that when we're going to sunset this program, more information about ROI, that sort of thing. So I'm in favor of facades in general. I understand all your reservations about, not a complete facade is being done here. And I agree with it. So, but I'm just explaining why I'm a nay on this.
thank you, Mark. So we have a motion to deny and a second. Do we take this to vote, or we just move on? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
So motion carries?
Oppose.
Oh, I'm waiting.
I'll oppose.
Oppo-
So it's carries.
I care, okay. That's why it's confusing, right?
Yeah.
It's not getting funded. Okay, we're gonna move on then to 9B.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
1 nay. Motion carries. So funding is approved. Thank you. We're going to move on to number 10, consideration and action to approve the following fiscal year 2025 Business Improvement and Growth Big Rent Reinvestment Program application, which is 1105 East Adams Street, property owner, Brick Box LLC, tenant is Morab Investments LLC, doing business as Jolie Petit, Mary and Roberto Soto, in the amount of $15,000 for rental reimbursement. And B, 1118 East Washington Street, Lourdes Volado Suite Company, in the amount of $14,469.
Okay, so for the first one, it's Julie Petit. They were able to bring on 15 full-time jobs and 5 part-time. Their monthly rent at the moment is $5,421.50. Sorry, I did put annual on the slideshow, but that is what their monthly rent is. They opened 4/16/2024, and their lease date does end on 4/16/2029. So they are asking for the maximum we were to system with, which is the $1,250 per month. Total of $15,000. Their annual is 65,000 is what it's coming out to, what they're paying in rent annually. Next one, okay. The second would be Lourdes Volado Suite Company. Right now, their annual rent is $28,938 with a monthly of $2,411.50. The grant amount that they're requesting is $14,469, which would be assistance of $1,205.75 per month. Their lease, their open date, because they did transition to downtown, would be from February 1st, 2024, lease ending in February 1st, 2027. They were able to bring on 4 full-time jobs and 4 part-time jobs.
Board, in regards to this application, if I would want it to be approved contingent that we seek legal advice with our own legal counsel as well as city council. In regards to this is, the owner is, was currently or formerly married to a current city commissioner. And just the statutes of timing, if it's allowable.
Wait, can you say that again? I'm sorry, I lost it there. The owner of...
That's correct, of a city commissioner. And just regards to, in our big grants, we say that no commissioner or family are allowed to apply for big grants. But because they're recently have a divorce decree, I would still like to seek advice from legal, from both our legal counsel and city legal counsel to make sure that the code of ethics were not.
On the application, do the applicants have to self-disclose any of those kind of relationships
Yes.
with employees or,
Yeah.
in this case,
Yeah. And,
elected official?
Lourdes, she actually submitted this right before our 72-hour deadline, but we wanted, because of our length of the next board meeting, we wanted to bring it in and let us do our due diligence then on if it's allowable.
For these grants, do we review also, I guess, their financial standings or their performance as part of the application?
Yes, they do. They do submit a profit loss.
And they're doing okay?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. Okay, sorry. This doesn't pertain to the request, but I'm just thinking, and maybe you're gonna get to this in the strategic plan. I can't remember what it's called, reinstatement, retention program or something for small businesses, but I'm just thinking, like, how do we help the owners, right, the individual business owners think about sustainability in the long term? If rent is such a high, it just seems like it's a high cost, right, period, and the big grant won't last forever.
No.
Or I'm just wondering, like, how do we help them meet the need now, but think about the need long-term. And then in terms of the difference between the rents, because they're both downtown, is the Jolie Petite, is it, I mean, I've been in both spaces and I'm trying to imagine, is it a much larger square
Yes.
footage? Like, is it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, those are my questions. So one thought for the future and.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, that's a good point, and
Yeah.
one that we can, with our business retention,
Business
is figuring out the sustainability for not only our big grants, but also for all of our programs.
Yeah.
Participants.
Okay, any additional questions?
I have a question, not about this, but like your budgets are not matching. When you say like on this, on one of the slides, you have big program budget for fiscal 2025 is 837, 777, and then when you put the balances, you have one is 837, 377.
Is that a reduction?
I don't
Is
know, he's still like the approved big budget, big program budget. It's not-
837, 377.
They're not matching in different slides. And then, is the rent subsidy part of the big? I was,
Yes.
thought like it's a different program.
Rent is part of the big.
Yes, rent
Something
subsidy is
on
part of the big, all of
Okay.
it. We didn't,
Okay, well then, your total, like, the first requests were added, and what would have been remaining, and then this one is the same thing, you know, like, you're not summing everything. I guess you're gonna do it next time when we meet. But the start point is, you need to be consistent, 837, 777, or is it 837, 377?
Yes, it was 837, 377. Yeah, it was a
So
typo.
that's the correct amount?
Yeah, that's the correct budget for
Okay.
20.
So, based on whatever we're gonna approve today, next time is gonna be the first round, like what we approved right now, and then the rental, and you divide, because right now you're keeping, you know, you're starting from the start. You're not counting into, you know, the other requests yet, but I guess you're waiting on the approval first, so it makes sense. Just correct the approved budget, please.
Okay, do we have a motion for, are we doing them separately?
I'll move to approve both requests.
Okay, awesome. We've got a motion to approve both requests.
Do we want to include in his motion the subject to having?
Yes.
Oh, subject to correct the approved budget for BIC this year.
and subject to legal counsel in
And
regards to.
subject to legal counsel about the second request. Sorry, forgot that.
Thank you. We've got a motion.
Second.
We got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. We're gonna move on to item 11, which is consideration and action to approve the following applications for the Brownsville Small Business Recovery Fund contingent upon receiving additional documentation from the applicants as required by the Housing and Urban Development HUD federal agency. A, Trinity Health Services, Diego Naranjo, small business category of $20,000. B, Mi Casa Restaurant LLC, it's a restaurant. Herminia de la Garza, micro enterprise, $10,000. C is 3D Services, General Maintenance Services, Richard Benavides, micro enterprise, $10,000. D, Sabby's Beauty Salon and Barber Shop, which is a salon and barber shop, Wendy Bolanos, micro enterprise, $10,000. And E is Allegro Ballet School LLC, it's a dance academy, Maria Sanchez, micro enterprise, $10,000.
All right, hello, board members. So we received 5 complete and eligible applications for the recovery fund. The first one, which is letter A, is considered a small business category, which is businesses that employ from 6 to 50 employees. And then letters B to D are considered micro enterprises, businesses that employ from 1 to 5 employees. All these meet the eligibility requirements for this program, and we are asking for your consideration for these. And then just to mention, I know it was mentioned on the past board meeting that a total of 19 applications were submitted. All those applications have been reviewed. Some of them are not eligible, but some, we're still waiting on some documents from the applicants, so I'm still working with the applicants. So there's a complete list of those applications on the next page. And
In your board packet.
yeah, in the board packet.
I vaguely remember this program, we will have that money and we will not be spending it, right? Like in the previous years? Like, we will have the money available, but it was lack of applicants. And now I'm seeing we're just barely starting the year and you already have funded 340,000 out of the 581.
Yes, sir.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
the info session helped a lot.
Huh?
The info session that we hosted in October helped a lot.
Yeah.
That's
it
where we got
shows.
most of the applicants from.
Wow.
Great work.
I'm so proud of you and your work here because you turned the table, flip it completely. Like it was, we were the end of the year and we had the 500 remaining.
Yeah, we were
They were
just
almost
waiting for the
starting and-
city to
Yeah.
give us the green light, because they told us to pause the program because they HUD and them needed to review our
Yeah, no,
guidelines and revise any
So-
guidelines with any federal standards that have been changed.
I just want to
That took
acknowledge
months.
your
Thank
great
you.
work.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for that.
The
Appreciate
goal
it.
is to deplete the funding by the next quarter, second quarter.
Awesome.
Awesome.
We're
Tracy?
working on it.
Thank
Motion
you.
to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go on to 12, which is consideration and action to adopt the 2025-2029 strategic plan. That sounds epic, right?
All right. Board, back in August, we had one of the consultants come and do a workshop with our strategic plan. It was showcased, and I shouldn't say showcase, it was presented, and it was just a draft format. And then it was sent back with suggestions from the board, as well as the edits, all the edits that were given during that time. Along with that, there was a conversation of not downsizing to be more understandable of what our plan is. And from that, Nelson and I came up with, and with the work of the consultants, we did an executive summary. So taking that 130-some pages of the plan and downsizing it with an executive summary, and then just focusing on our year one goals. We thought that would make it more of being transparent, accountable. We can put the key measures, and then at the end of the year, we can do a report card on how we did, and then move on to year two and present that with year two, and so on and so on. So with that, because the action matrix has about 130 initiatives, strategies. And from that, out of those strategies, how we're going to accomplish it. So from that, this is year one. And year one is, we divide it between our three peers, which is our entrepreneurship, our community development, and our finance programs. And a lot of them do overlap. So we took it down to our three categories: accelerating entrepreneurship and quality jobs. Mark, can you hear me when I sit back?
Yes.
Okay, great. So based on the strategies that I'm about to say is based on these, we summed it up in 3 bullets. Brownsville has a higher startup rate than our peer communities. Our peer communities we're looking at like McAllen, Weslaco, Harlingen, Edinburgh. And with that, 87% of the 8,000 business licenses that in the past 9 years, just in Brownsville, were single proprietors or LLCs. And mostly they were lower wage sectors. Right now, the community faces challenges with a median household income of $46,735 with a poverty rate of 26.1, which is double the U.S. average. The average is about 11%. It is critical for us to diversify our economy, create higher paying jobs, and reduce reliance on lower wage industries like retail, accommodations, and food service. From that, our goal number 1 is expand our entrepreneurship and small business programs to provide focused support to grow those sectors that create high-paying jobs. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that by creating a business retention and expansion program. We're going to nurture second-stage companies with economic gardening and create a talent retention and recruitment program. from that, these are our measures of how we can report if we're doing our job or not. So for entrepreneurship growth, we'll look at the number of new businesses created in those target sectors, the percentage of the startups that survive past the 2-year mark. So we'll obviously have to keep not only this year and next year, but the following year to follow them along. And so we'll always have to have a report card on our year 1, year 2, year 3 of how we're doing. And then, excuse me, the number of high-paying jobs that are created. On the business retention and expansion program, of the number of businesses that we retained and expanded through our program, the percentage of increase in revenue and employment for these businesses that we're watching, and the job growth in those sectors. In talent recruitment, it's the number of boomerang professionals we recruit back to Brownsville. So obviously we're gonna have to have a marketing campaign. We're gonna have to talk to, you know, our partners and see how we can collaborate. Where's that synergy at? Next one is retention rate of skilled professions in the target high wage sectors, as well as our satisfactory surveys from companies benefiting from the recruitment program. Any questions in regards to this so far?
So, or you go first.
I was actually gonna ask if we can take this item to a different special session.
Sure.
Because, I mean, obviously there is a lot of questions, or maybe in discussion and thoughts, and we wanna be, I mean, this is important.
Yeah.
And we still have some other items, so if, I mean, I'm just asking Madam Chair if we can just take this item all together and have a
work session.
It could be a work session, inform, whatever you call it, special meeting, just to review and discuss this strategic plan and action plan and all that. That's my personal suggestion.
And I'm only thinking of that because of the holidays and such.
I mean, obviously, not before Thanksgiving.
No.
I mean, would this be December? I think the only reason for us is we really want, we have a marketing plan going, and we want to initiate that.
I absolutely agree, but I'm just like anything,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the board, I mean, again, this is just my recommendation, my suggestion. Whatever is convenient for before the Christmas holidays, like, you know, before the Christmas, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, any time in between.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Zorma, you had a comment.
Sorry.
Well, I had questions about the metrics, but if we're gonna talk about it later, then I'll wait. So those are my.
Okay, board, I think,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is great. I'm excited about it, and I want to dive deep into it, but I mean, we'll be here all night.
okay.
What's the estimate of how long this presentation is?
Well, with questions, it sounds like there might be a lot
There's
of
a lot of
questions.
questions, yeah.
It could then definitely, you know, ideally, yeah, no, it looks like an hour, hour and a half.
So, I mean, and maybe this could feed into the next meeting, but one thing that, you know, we had requested during the workshop in August was something that was actionable and measurable. And, you know, I'm glad to see some metrics here, but I think, like, in a way, this is, some of them are kind of putting the cart before the horse, because I wasn't clear exactly on how some of this stuff would be implemented, and then how it would be measured. I mean, some of them, you know, it's not for all of these measures, but for some. And the idea would also be, you know, when is it going to happen? I know it's going to be the first year, but, you know, what are the milestones, and, you know, what is the timeline? I noticed that also in the RFP, part F says implementation plan. This is the request for proposals to contractors. provide a detailed roadmap for executing the strategic plan, including timelines, responsible parties, and resource requirements. That's one bullet. The other bullet is recommend performance metrics and monitoring mechanisms. So hopefully, maybe for the next meeting, what we can see is for year one, what exactly are the projects going to be looking like? How are we going to spend the money that we have set aside? When are we going to start, right? Because I'm assuming this is for FY26. So like, when exactly are we going to start? And I imagine there's going to be a lot of prep that's going to have to be done beforehand during this year. So I would like to see like, what are the milestones for, that prep? I feel like my basic feeling about this is that, we've been told for months, since last year when this was kicked off, that we need a strategic plan to know what exactly we're going to spend all this money on. This is why, people were concerned that the city was asking for this money in reserve that we had. We said we would like to use this for our strategic plan. So I'm not exactly clear here in a lot of these what we are going to spend the money on exactly, how much and when. I feel like that's missing. And maybe that can be given to us in the next meeting. But just stepping back broadly, I appreciate that there was a SWOT analysis, but I also think that we need to have a SWOT analysis on us as an organization. What are our strengths and weaknesses? I don't know if necessarily, we're designed to get our hands dirty in a way. Because what are our strengths? What are our strengths? I would say that we have $7 million a year that just comes to us, and we have bonding capacity. And we have, the other thing is that we have less red tape. So how do we leverage these strengths in our community? And, we talk about healthcare, we talk about affordable housing, and I don't hear much of a mention of the other players that are in those spaces and what they're doing.
Hey, Mark.
And yeah.
I guess we just need to make a decision before we keep going on whether we're going to continue to give feedback or what is helpful, or if we want to do a separate session.
I don't want to wait until
Right.
until the next. I would like, in a way, this feedback to feed into that meeting. So, I think that perhaps if that I think would be more productive rather than, we all wait until.
If that's the case, if that's what we would like to do moving forward, then I think we should let Corey finish her presentation so we can hear what she has to say. And then if we want to move forward like that, that's fine. But I would like you to finish if possible. What's your opinion? Yeah.
Sorry, don't want to lose my train of thought. On the measuring success, if we're going to do another session, I think it would be helpful to identify what's the target, right? Because what's outlined here is how you'll measure, right? The number of higher paying jobs, the percent of startups. So, but the goal can be, our goal is 10%, right? New startups this year, or percent increase in job growth. This is good as a measure, but I think we still need to identify what's the baseline, right? And what's your goal? So then at the end of the year, when you measure, you say, okay, this is where, we met or didn't meet, or, right? And not with the eye of oh, you didn't meet the 10%, right? But sort of we met 6%, here were the dependencies, here's what we'll do differently next year. Anyway, just an idea if we're gonna talk about this in more depth at another time.
So I think we just need to know, do I go on, or do we say, you know what, let's let's take no action, and we do a info session, workshop, I should say, for the board.
It sounds like we're on a timeline. If we want to get this approved before the end of the year, it might be best to give the feedback now, right? So that there's time to make whatever changes.
That or the feedback could be, I could meet individually, or email, or a phone call with each individual board member and talk about, what their concerns are, what they like, what they need more information on, what they like to see for the work session.
Yeah, I like the idea of a work session, but I know time is an issue and a lot of people might be not available. But at a minimum, yeah, given some written feedback where we can go in and give you some comments and ideas of what we want to see and then meet together.
To be honest with you, I'm not enjoying what's happening right now because I am very invested in strategic plan, right? And we all are. And we have been committed to these meetings and all of that. And now it came to the point where we're trying to discuss the product and see how we're gonna move forward with it. It's being rushed and it's being like, we have to hammer it right now. That's my personal feeling right now. So I would like to have the time to actually discuss this as a group because this is our pathway moving forward for the next 3 years, right? Having all these individual discussions is good, whatever, that's maybe good for you. You can get some ideas of what to expect, but we should get together to have a consensus of how we're gonna move forward as a board, right? So that's my feelings about this. So, and I think we're wasting time more now discussing what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it rather than actually making a decision. Because if we're gonna open for you to discuss, we're gonna spend another hour and a half. Or should we just stop it now? You heard Mark, you heard Zoraima. I think that's kind of the main thing that what are these measurable steps they want to take and what's the funding associated with these steps? Come back to us and present it with the rest of the package and we can, go into detail. But it should be special meeting, not part of the meeting. It's special meeting for
Agree.
this.
Okay, sounds like that's a motion. Would you like to make a motion?
I move to table this item with preparation based on the feedback that you just received from the board to come up with specific steps and money allocated or funds allocated for these steps and timeline
And a special meeting.
for a special meeting.
Awesome, thank you. We've got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. We are moving into executive session, so we're going to pause for a moment as we change the room. I have to read it, sorry. Item number 13, discussion pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code regarding personnel matters that Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation may convene in a closed session to discuss the duties, evaluation, possible salary adjustments, and employee performance based on the compensation distribution of the president and CEO.
So we need a motion to move into executive session.
Motion. Go ahead. You do it.
Motion to move to executive session.
We've got a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're moving into executive session.
All right, let's,
Can I get a second before we?
yeah, I was like, can we take a 5-minute break?
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Number 14, possible action regarding personnel matters related to the president and CEO.
Move with a motion to, for the board to complete the survey by December 2nd, Monday, for the performance, and to table the approval of the goals for 2025 until after the strategic planning session.
And you want those surveys submitted to HR?
That's it.
The HR committee.
Yes, that's, yes.
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to 15, which is announcement, board staff announcements or comments.
Board, I wanted to let you know that in the previous board meeting, we said that we were going to host a Christmas network mixer, but with talking with staff further afterwards, we have decided not to move forward on that just because of our capacity and us wanting to catch up on work. And so we're using December as our catch-up time. So we are not having a December mixer. I think that is really it on announcements. I will send a poll out for availability for December.
Tomorrow at 5:30 at the Coca-Cola building, one of the companies that we've been incubating is having an investor event on their own. We help them market it, push it out, but if you want to attend, 5:30 p.m. tomorrow at the Coca-Cola building.
Thank you, Nathan.
And one last thing is, we do have board appointments on December 10th for the city commission. So we have 3 board members they're at their end of the term. 3.
Me.
Jill, Zoraima, and Mark. So it's ask if you have any people you would know that you think would do good serving on our board, have them submit applications. They're eligible for reappointment, but they do, Zoraima and Jill wishes not to be reappointed for consideration, wishes not to be considered for reappointment. So, that is it. That's it for our announcements.
Okay, we are on item 16, which is adjournment.
Second and motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you guys for a great meeting.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.